Blunt Cuts is a podcast fueled by creativity, curiosity, and empowerment. We cut through the daily mess of life. This is unfiltered honesty. Park your passive at the door. This is Blunt Cuts. Welcome to Blunt Cuts. I'm CJ, and today I want to talk about the word why and how powerful it can be with family, with friends, with work life, pretty much anywhere. I have never stopped asking why. But I think as a mom, like you and to the moms out there, you wait for your children to start speaking, and it's so exciting to hear those first words. And then they continue learning the world around them. And there's this distinct point in time. For my kids, it was usually around 2 or 3 when the word why enters. I can all hear you laughing because you know what I mean. Don't drink the bathwater. Why? Hey, that's dog poop. Don't eat it. Why? Can you step away from that? Why? Say thank you. Why? Mom's tired. Why? It's sleepy time. Why? All the things that we say to our kids, and that's their response for the little moment in time when they start exploring. So, right, why do we stop asking why? And exchange that with kind of an internalized frustration and a built-up animosity. As women, I think this happens earlier than we think. I think it's probably even before school age. But I know specifically from some recent things that I've been working with my Girl Scout troop on. We did a whole girl raise your hand badge. And there was a young woman, Girl Scout, who in DC, who wrote a book called Girl Raise Your Hand. And it was all about this idea of inspiring girls. And it came with a pledge and it came with a patch. And the Girl Scout troops that chose to read this book and take this initiative on were there to inspire other girls to raise their hand in class. So when we were talking about teaching this badge, my co-leader and I really looked it up and started understanding a little bit more. So girls will not raise their hand in class unless they are 90% certain that they have the answer, some even higher. So that's on average. Boys will raise their hand anyway. And a completely non-relevant answer to the question, like, I saw a frog 3 days ago and it was gross and it was smushed and there was blood everywhere. Boys will just capitalize any time to speak up in class, right? So as we get older, as we as women enter school and organizations, we want to grow and thrive. We don't ask why. And I'm sure, there's a lot more research behind that. And this is kind of my one, point in case of bringing up today. But I think it's so very relevant that we start compartmentalizing. I think I know I'm great at compartmentalizing and parking this here and parking that there. And that's my work life. And this is my family life. And that's my CJ Blunt Cuts life. And that's my styling life. And I can compartmentalize till, forever. I'm real great at it. But oftentimes we'll compartmentalize and ask that somebody asks of us. Maybe that's a family member who just needs something and we just do it, and then we start feeling like, hey, maybe I was being taken advantage of, or a leader asks you to do a task and you're just like, well, I just have to do this. My leader knows what they want. I really don't know why, but I'll just do it. They'll see my value. The list goes on, et cetera, et cetera. And you start kind of compartmentalizing and making up these narratives, or at least, I've done this, so I know that there have to be other women that do this, but it's not my place to ask why, is that internal monologue. And I know this because I just recently had a conversation with my sister who lives in London, and she's very early in her career, and we text as much as we kind of can, but she came to me and she's just like, oh, I'm really frustrated and there's a lot going on and my plate at work just keeps getting more full and I just don't understand what I'm being to being asked to do, and I just don't like it, and I think they're taking advantage of me, and I know I'm new, but I'm worth so much more, and she's going through all of this. And I was just like, well, did you ask why? And she kept texting, like, but no, did you ask why? Like, did you ask that question? And her answer was no. And I know that I've been in those positions too where I hadn't asked, but when I started asking why, I really learned that it's powerful. It is your place. So I do challenge you as women to raise your hand and ask why. I think asking why can really bring forward this idea of pause, and it catches people off guard because why isn't asked that frequently, hilariously. And it pauses for reflection of like, oh, am I just, I don't know why. Do I know why? Do I know why I asked that? Maybe we need to step back. Is there a different way of approaching this? I think it pauses. It just puts like an abrupt pause in that hamster wheel of like life and work, and go run after and do this social media strategy, or go do this. And like without, if you don't have the why and you don't know what the deeper goal is, oftentimes it's hard to get connected to it, and therefore that work is just going to get done and passed along, and you're not going to feel like emotionally engaged with it, right? So I think why also can open conversation. I know for me it has. My leader now is like, honestly, how are you from Minnesota? Like, you're so New York. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, why do you say that? But I get his sentiment, and it's more, I'm very direct, and I'm always asking why, probably as much as the toddler. Not in a condescending way, but in a, have we thought this fully through? Like, I know that if we haven't, it can be better if we like take a moment and just check ourselves and really do ask why. I think it brings that deeper value. So yeah, why can add that pause. It can open that conversation. I think it can solve the problem more quickly, because then everybody at the table is like, okay, yes, this is the why. Here's how we should do it, or this is what we should do. And I think it does open that more collaboration space, even with family too. So not just business. I'm speaking from business because that's a lot of how I spend my day, right? But I mean, I think in a family scenario, like we want to have family pictures, and we want them to look like this, but everybody go, buy an outfit and it should look like this. But, or this recently happened in my family, so I can speak to it. Or should we just have one person manage all of that, get the sizes, so then it does all match? And this is me as a stylist saying I'm going to style our 10-person family photo shoot, because we're all going to want that to match. And somebody's going to be mad that somebody got the wrong yellow. So this is things that, matter in our color palette lives as designers. So just the little things, the smallest thing, if you just ask why and ask more deeply, I think you can get to the core without like building any resentment or animosity. I think it shows initiative. This is one thing I've been told, like I ask why a lot, and I've been told like, you show initiative and you're so organized. And a lot of those comments and reflections back that I've gotten about those comments have to do with situations in which I said, hold up, why? Like when I asked why, instead of just going forward and doing, what was asked at the table, I sat and said, why? Can you tell me more about that? Can you explain to me what we're going to grow from this? Can you tell me what's in your head a little more deeply on this ask? And I think that it does translate to, oh, you're so organized because you're wanting to think this through. And that's just no, I really just don't know why. And I want to make sure you do, and you may not. So that helps illustrate to me when you ask me things, like how well you think about them. But I think it does bring forward that confidence too. And The more you ask why, the more confident you are the next time to raise your hand at a table or offer a suggestion that probably no one has thought of, right? Like, or other people are thinking and no one wants to raise their hand. So I think in the sea of, being the woman in the room who raises their hand, like, do that. I challenge you, like, go and do that. It's such a little word. And I just think it's such a magical word. So start. Let's see if this theory works out and it's not just me. But I really do think that it can open doors. I don't think that it in your head, like your internal narrative of the word why may sound like, oh, I'm being confrontational, or I'm insinuating you don't know what you're talking about. I don't think it's that at all. If you're asking from a genuine place and you want to know, and the way and the tone you're like bringing it to the table, like that can be all positive, for sure. So I think especially like in a time right now when I know I'm sitting in a lot of rooms where we just got a big report in our organization showing the percentage of how white we are. So that was an interesting report to read back. And that's a big like elephant in the room, right? So yeah, that was a time I asked why and what we're going to do about that. I think that the more like why or open-ended questions, the more it keeps up like a conversation, and that's good. That's good for brainstorming. But there's the occasional task where it's like, no, this just has to be done. Nobody knows why, but just like do it. That's always like one of my favorites. I'm like, okay, cool, great. At least I checked. Like nobody knows why, but we'll just do it and move on. But I think it's a good first step at like asking why, showing that you care, showing that you have a deeper connection to what you're doing. May that be in friendship and family and work. Just really use that powerful little word. We use it there is a great book called Starting with the Why by Simon Sinek, and we use this in our work as a communications agency where I'm a creative director, and we always ask our clients to step back, start with the why they're doing something, and then we can build circles around like the what and the how, and eventually get back to the like nuts and bolts. But if we start with the why, it's a really like emotional point to start at. So I think even taking in, some of that leadership and research from this powerful little word, it can make a difference. And it's not hard to say. So let's say why and check ourselves a little bit more and bring that into our lives. Thanks for hanging out with us. Let's continue the conversation on Instagram. You can find us at Blunt Cuts Podcast. Blunt Cuts is a production of Matriarch Digital Media. Executive producer Twyla Dang. Edited by Beth K. Gibbs. Production assistant Mia Register. You can find more great podcasts from Matriarch Digital Media at matriarchdm.com.